In this week's episode, I'll be joined by Rita Mays, our Equality Institute business manager in my right hand, who is absolutely indispensable. And we are going to talk about the year in good vibes. Hey there, my name is Bernadette Smith. Welcome to 5 Things in 15 Minutes, my weekly show where I bring good vibes to DEI. That is good vibes to diversity, equity, and inclusion with a little dash of corporate social responsibility. What I've found is that there are lots of news stories about what's going wrong in the world and lots of negative data. But there are also a lot of things going right. That's what I like to focus on. I search for DEI stories that we can be inspired by and learn from. My hope is to inspire you to experiment with some of these inclusive actions and policies within your own organization to help you build a more inclusive world. So let's get started. Rita, will you please introduce yourself and tell folks a little bit about your background before we started working together? Perhaps before you even started your own business.
Okay, well, my name is Rita Mays, and as Bernadette stated, I am the business manager for Equality Institute. I am like halfway through my third year.
Something like
Something
that. It's
like
been a while.
something like
We're very
that.
lucky to have you.
And it's been a blast. It has just gone so fast. And prior to that, I had started my own business, which was pretty much virtual, and I did similar things to this, as well as a lot of meeting planning and coordination. Prior to doing my own thing, I worked in corporate America. I've been executive assistants and coordinators and editors and the whole gamut. And it has afforded me the opportunity to see so many changes that are just outstanding. And now I'm just really, really enjoying the hats that I wear with Bernadette. And I couldn't be happier. I mean, it's like, hey, this chapter is A-okay.
I love that. I love that. Can you just be honest with us all for a little bit? Anyone who's watching or listening, what were some of the let's say opportunities that you saw from your experience, your personal experience working in corporate America that you see us addressing today in our work?
Wow.
I
That
know it's
has
a hard
been,
question.
yeah, you know what? It's more or less like trying to look at it and say, there have been so many minute little things. Uh, I feel like I have seen an awakening in corporate America. Period. More or less, they're woke, and really, I what I feel that with the upcoming generations that are coming into the workforce, that a lot of much more open, diversity has become even more important. I feel that I have watched organizations become really and truly committed to what's going on in our world, in our societies, in the workplace, and it's just amazing. I love it. I love it.
I'm glad you said that because, in some of the year end conversations that I've been having and some of the recaps that I've been seeing about the year, there has been quite a bit of negativity. Layoffs of DEI employees being a big one, and, not necessarily getting a lot of traction. And I know that in the conversations with many of the organizations that you and I talk to, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of organizations are trying to have a DEI strategy that's focused exclusively on workshops and not looking at the bigger picture and not actually having a strategy. They are just focused on workshops and the awareness part of things, which is really important, and you have to sort of go through that awareness piece. But when the employees after the workshop are like, "Okay, now what? I'm psyched. Let's do this. What are you doing now?" There seems to be a real lack of strategy. Is that something that you're seeing, and are you seeing some of the negativity, that I've referred to towards the end of the year? I mean, you and I are both positive people.
Yeah, we are, aren't we? Well, you know what? I actually agree with everything that you just said because when I first came in on board, and it was right after George Floyd and everything, and um, the focus was workshops. You know, workshops. Workshops are going to heal everything. It's going to make everything good. What it did was it it did good, but it now people are looking for what's the next step.
Mhm.
What is your true commitment? You know, and it's just opened up the door. I think that I kind of feel like a lot of the companies and organizations that we deal with are now going, what next? And I'm happy to say that a lot of them are turning to us for what next. You
Yeah.
know, and it's great, you know, because there is a what's next. Now, without a doubt, some people are, and some organizations are a little bit slower than others, but I just think that it is it's phenomenal, and I see it happening, and but versus it being swept under the table, like okay, we used to have Friday after hours.
Mhm.
And now, things are a little tight in the industry, everything's going a little haywire. So we're going to get rid of that. DEI is not going to go away.
Yep.
It's just not. It is great. And I think that it's worth fighting for. And I see people that are so serious. I see organizations that are committed and looking for ways to make this happen.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate the fact that we keep hearing from organizations and that they're looking to move forward in even if it's just workshops. I
Mhm.
think that the awareness piece is important, and we're going to get them. We're going to get them through that and into the strategy piece as well. One of the things I wrote about in this week's 5 things was the Respect for Marriage Act, which was just codified into federal law by President Biden after passing both houses of Congress. And it's a law that codifies both same sex marriages and interracial marriages, which really only previously were legal due to Supreme Court rulings. So, this is something that could potentially affect both of us. Um, we're both unmarried, so it could potentially affect
Oh, yes.
affect both of us. But I think that it's like it's been a long time coming. It's been a long time coming, and a lot of the things I write about in 5 things are finally, finally we can do this, and so I would just want to mention that as well.
Well, I will be terribly honest. I did not realize that it was not fully codified for interracial marriages, because there's quite a few out here, but I didn't realize that it hadn't been codified. So I feel like you, hey, to me, it's perseverance. It's the sign of the times. It's a sign of the changes that are going on in our society. And I'm waiting for everything else. I'm just waiting for everything else because to me, this is definitely a sign of the times.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and so more to come. And when we hear more good news, of course, people can find it here in 5 things. Okay, so Rita, let's get to the top 5 good vibes of the year. The first story is about hybrid work models, which I really think we saw this year. Kind of a lot of different experiments in that organizations were putting forth and seeing what works and what's not working. One thing that I noticed in terms of both my friends and my professional colleagues, one thing that seems to be working well is what I'm considering a kind of a hybrid ideal. for folks, for organizations that can pull it off. So, remote work as
Mhm.
an option for everyone. And we know that women and traditionally underrepresented folks are often preferring remote work because there are fewer microaggressions. So, remote work as an option for everyone, but requiring employees to come in for gatherings and retreats. So, it seems to be kind of the best of both worlds. Not everyone wants the remote work option. So, having it as an option seems to be kind of the standard that I'm seeing be, kind of making folks the happiest.
Well, definitely. I kind of feel we need to thank COVID for
Sure.
coming into play because it put us in a situation where we really had to consider it. And we have discovered that it works.
hmm
It especially works with people who have families, children, maybe elderly family members,
hmm
just taking care of the home front and to be able to focus, focus on what's on doing the best job they can do
hmm
versus I I've been there, where half my mind is at home and the other half is at my job. And when I'm at home, I'm half my mind is still at work. And
hmm
so I love what this is doing. And most of my friends and colleagues are really, really enjoying it. They're enjoying their work. It seems like they can focus more
Yep.
and really get to know their jobs and love them. I think
Yeah.
wonderful.
I agree. All right, the next thing trend, I would consider it a trend. Hopefully, it sticks around that I saw happen more this year was companies speaking out against injustice, particularly this time against anti-abortion laws in a lot of U.S. states after the Dobbs decision overturned Roe versus Wade. So we saw a lot of companies showing support. I mean, even Salesforce offered to pay relocation expenses for employees who chose to leave that state. So what I'm hoping is that we see more and more. I'm not going to call them activist corporations or woke corporations, but companies that are really doing a lot to speak up against injustice in terms of their benefits.
Mhm. I have been so pleasantly surprised. It was something I didn't expect to happen. And
None of it.
true, true. And but to see companies willing to stand up for the good,
hmm
you know, not just necessarily for the good of making more money, good, which is kind of like basically saying, well, hey guys, you just have to deal with it, but
hmm
taking a social stand.
hmm
And I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. We spend so much time working. We spend so much time working that I feel that it's supportive, and it just it. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it really does generate more
Goodwill. Yeah.
loyalty
Yeah.
and goodwill. You know.
Absolutely. And the next story is about is what I consider to be an increasing awareness that diversity means everyone, and this is something that we talk about in our work. But we're seeing that a lot more folks are seeing that they kind of fit under this diversity umbrella with the rise in anti-Semitism, increasing awareness of caste discrimination, more conversations around mental health, and adding accessibility to DEI. And I think this really matters because the more folks that see themselves as part of the conversation, the more they're going to be invested in growth and change.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, Bernadette, I feel like you're at the forefront on this because just when I look at our workshops that really bring it home, that deal with inclusivity, that deals with what's the my
Intersectionality.
personality, you
Yeah.
know, to me, even when you brought them on board, I was like, huh, what? And it just opened up so much, just it just it opened the door to really let you see what DEI is.
Mm-hmm.
What is diversity, equity, and inclusion? And I just feel it just really brings so much more vision. And I think you're like so awesome to be in the forefront of this. I love it.
Thank you. Well, I'm all about inclusion, not exclusion. So I'm completely comfortable expanding the tent. All right. So the next story is about diversity in sports. We saw a lot of stories this year about athletic races like the Boston Marathon and the New York Marathon having non binary categories. We're seeing women in leadership at baseball teams, football teams. I mean, that's amazing. We even saw a new women's professional soccer team in LA with an incredibly diverse slate of founding members, the advent of the Women's Sports Network. So this was really exciting to me as a non-athlete.
Same here. From a family full of athletes. Okay. But yeah, and it just it I looking at the women's soccer team and looking at all of these women executives, it's just so awesome. And even like there was a time when you never even saw a woman sportscaster. It was just,
Mhm.
and so now we're seeing this big change and I love it. I just
Me
love
too. Me too. And the last story is about the momentum being gained by the 4-day work week. It's getting traction in Australia, New Zealand, the UK. Not so much here, but I believe we'll get there.
I can actually say that when I was in corporate America, I participated in a couple of experiments with a 4-day work week.
Wow, that was a while ago.
Yeah, yeah. And guess what? It went away. But I think that with the advent of COVID and working from home and virtual, uh, that everyone is re-examining what it means to have, and we're always talking about making sure that we have a good work-life balance, and this would really help. So I just feel that it is really the next step, and I think that by next year we're going to see more of it. I really do.
Absolutely, Rita. And when we do, you can guarantee that I'll be writing about it in 5 things and talking about it right here on this show because I want to celebrate all of those good vibes in DEI. Thank you so much for joining me today, Rita. Thank you, everyone, for being loyal listeners and viewers of the show over the past couple of years. And I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season and that 2023 brings you all the tools you need to help build a more inclusive world. Thank you for listening to 5 Things in 15 Minutes. I hope you found yourself inspired by at least one of this week's stories. If you did, would you mind sharing it with a colleague and leaving us a review on your favorite podcasting platform? And if you don't already get my 5 Things newsletter, join at 5thingsdei.com. I'm Bernadette Smith, and I'll see you next week right here for 5 Things in 15 Minutes, bringing good vibes to DEI.